Today we're going to talk about how to file a civil case against a business or a person who has taken goods or services from you but has failed to pay you or has part paid you. So what do you do in that case? So in that case, what you do is you file a case in the civil court with the competent jurisdiction. Now, how do we determine in which civil court do you file the case in? That depends on two things. The first thing that you should be careful about is the value of the suit or the value of the case. So you need to think about, okay, how much, so am I filing for say 5 lakhs, am I filing for 10 lakhs, am I filing it for 1 crore, am I filing for 22 crores, whatever. So if it's a small amount, it usually comes in the junior court. Just if it's a slightly higher amount, it goes to a senior court, and a little above that, it goes to the chief judge's court, or even a commercial court, depending on the value of the suit. So you have to check the local high court notifications for that to see in which court your case will come in. Now, the second aspect of that is, so one is the value of the suit. The other aspect is, okay, so there are five civil courts. Now, in which court will that come in? Uh, so you'll have to look at where the transaction actually happened or where the defendant resides. So the defendant meaning, the person whom you are filing the case against and who will have to defend the suit. So where he resides or where the transaction actually occurred. In one of these places, you'll be able to file your civil suit. Now, the other important thing to keep in mind when you're filing a civil suit for recovery of money is what is the time limit in which you can file the civil suit. Let's say, for example, I mean, to take an extreme example, let's say there was some money that was due to you in 1900 and you want to file the case today in 2021, which is 121 years later. The law will not permit you to do that because the law will say, look, you cannot sleep over your rights for 120 years and now suddenly wake up and say, okay, there is some amount that is due to me. So the law prescribes timelines as to when you can file these cases. So in a civil suit, the law prescribes a limitation of 3 years. Now, the next question is, okay, 3 years, but when does that start to run? From what date? So it can be from that 3 years can run from multiple dates. So it could be the date on which the money was actually due, or it could be the date on which you requested money and it was denied. It could be the date on which there was part payment of the money, and after which there was no further payment. So any of these three amount or any of these three dates you could use as to file limitation, or for limitation as to when the 3 years starts to run. Now let's get to the actual drafting of the suit. Now when you draft the suit, what you do is the first thing that you would write would be the name of the court. What is the court, in which court you are filing it in? Then you would write your details. You would say, so I would say I Ramana Reddy, age so and so, son of so and so, address, resident of so and so, and I would give my details. Now in many cases you could be a company. So what you do is you issue a board resolution in favor of the person who has to file the case, or you say, I authorized Mr. XYZ to take care of all affairs relating to this case, and therefore, so he will represent the company in this case. So it will say I XYZ, resident of so and so, son of so and so, representing the company through board resolution dated so and so, and you give the details of the plaintiff. The plaintiff in this case will be you, who will be filing the civil suit. Now, on the other hand, you also give the details of the defendant. The defendant again would be the same thing. If it's an individual, you write the details of the individual. If it is a company, then the same thing. I mean, you don't know who they're going to authorize, but so you just mention the name of the company as reflected in the ROC records, or in your correspondences, and so on. And then you start drafting the suit. Now, really, the crux of the suit will be the details of the transactions that are entered into between you and the defendant. So you would start off presumably by talking about, Okay, so the defendant raised a purchase order on me saying, to deliver goods or services, or it could be, we entered into an agreement for delivery of goods and services. And once these go and, I supplied goods or services to them in pursuance of the agreement. Here are some invoices that are raised, and in the invoices, what is the amount payable in advance? Is the amount is the are the amounts payable after the goods, or is there a credit period? All those details would have to be furnished. Are there any email exchange, email correspondences between the parties, which they usually are, today? What are there any emails that you could use in your favor? That is something that you would have to consider. Are there any admissions in any of in any of those emails? Has a third party stood as a guarantor saying if he doesn't pay, I will pay? Is that email there? So all these things, the details of the transactions essentially have to be captured. And if you, for example, if you've supplied goods, then is there a delivery challan? Is there an e-way bill that was generated on the GST portal? All these things will have to be, all those details will have to be put in the drafting of the plaint. And now, when moving on, you'll have to claim the relief as to what is the relief that you're claiming. The relief could be, uh, so you would say, to award this much money to me because this much is due to me. Also, the other important thing that you should not miss is to ask for interest. So how much interest that you're claiming from the date it is due. And if you're making multiple parties as responsible for non-payment, then you will ask them to pay jointly and severally, which means that if you win, then you can proceed against any one of them to when you file or when you try to recover the money. The other important thing is now what documents do you annex with the suit? The documents could be the again what the same documents that you mentioned in the plaint or in the complaint that you filed against the defendant. So it could be the agreement, the purchase orders, uh, the the invoices, correspondences, and so on. All those documents will need to be annexed with the complaint or the plaint, as we call it here. Uh, Now, the other important thing is if some money is due to you, I would suggest that you don't jump the gun. Don't file the case immediately. Always issue a legal notice first, because the defendant may not be want to they may not want to be embroiled in a legal battle, and that notice may do the job, and you may just get your money back. So always issue a legal notice first, asking for money, saying, here's a legal notice to repay the money within 10 days or 15 days or 7 days. And in the event you don't do that, then I'm going to file a case against you. So that way, that can also be used in evidence, which is always a good practice to issue a legal notice before you file a case for recovery of money. Uh, and yeah, that's essentially the broad strokes of how to file a recovery of money suit or a recovery of money case. I hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching.